Chapter 9, Fairy Riddles. Well, riddle me this.
So, Kaya was pretty certain that was the case, huh?
Yeah, she said that changelings have an unmistakable aura or something. And with the whole sleepwalking thing, it does kind of make sense. Would have been nice if the books were even the least bit accurate on this topic.
Seriously? So how did Mark take that? Did he have any thoughts? He's been awfully protective lately.
I didn't smile at her teasing. I just sighed and looked out the car window, biting my lip. That was not something I really wanted to think about.
Hey, everything okay?
I shrugged, really not wanting to go into all the glorious details of us yelling at each other on the sidewalk. I do have a question. I chose to throw the book bag at him. Does that mean I don't have my book bag today? And he's gonna have to be like, you left this behind. I was still ashamed at having lost it like that. Look, Mark despises humans. I'm human. You can do the math there.
Wait, what?
Look, it was a frustrating conversation. We both got pretty upset.
That jerk! He better not have done anything.
He didn't. He was just Mark. And I really don't want to talk about him right now. I just want to focus on getting my situation sorted out. I didn't have the time or emotional energy to deal with the Mark issue, really. When all this changeling stuff gets sorted, I'll give you all the details. You can be mad with me.
Pfft. Vampires! What an idiot!
That's what I said. I still didn't get how you could go from worrying about someone to just not caring in a matter of an hour. But see, if he didn't care, he would have just been indifferent to you, but he was very upset, so... He still cares, he's just being an ass about it. Because he's like, conflicting feelings, I hate humans, and also you hate paranormal things, and I'm paranormal, so ergo you hate me, blurg, I'm angsty. As much as I didn't want to think about him or talk about him, it was kind of hard not to. He'd sort of come to take up a pretty huge part of my life, and now that he didn't seem to want to be there anymore, it felt a little empty. At school, Allie reluctantly left to go do her extra credit work in the office. Alone, I headed to the 4th floor with equal reluctance. I'd gotten used to seeing Mark waiting for me there, but I had a feeling he wouldn't be there this morning. Just a hunch. But it was spot on. William, can you tell your best friend that he's being a butt? William was the only one in the club when I arrived. He looked like he was expecting me because he stood up when I entered, expression troubled. Good morning. I couldn't help but wonder if Mark had told him what had happened between us. It was hard to imagine Mark actually confiding in anyone, but they were friends. I wonder if William can read Mark's mind. And William did look a bit worried. I managed a smile for him, if only because he was too sweet to deal with grumpy Nora. Hey there. The first thing I noticed was my book bag sitting squarely in the middle of the coffee table. Right, so you're the book bag returner? That was a relief. Mark must have brought it back yesterday. Either that or this morning. At the very least, I was grateful he didn't leave it on the street after I'd thrown it at him. Rubbing my eyes, I flopped on the sofa, tipping my head back to look at the ceiling. I really need to pull myself together. I felt William's weight on the sofa next to me. Nora? Is everything okay? Do I look that bad? No, it's not that. I meant with Mark. He was upset last night. So they had talked, and now we're blushing about it. No, I guess it's not okay. He wouldn't tell me what happened, really. Just that he was mad?
It's not that he was mad, really. I mean, I don't think he was mad.
We argued about something I learned yesterday at the murder. I was frustrated, then he got frustrated. There was yelling. That's about the gist of it.
You know, he really cares for...
No, he doesn't. I took a deep breath, exhaling slowly as I sat up and looked at William seriously. Look, I know you're Mark's friend, but right now, I can't listen to someone insist he cares. He stressed how much he hates humans, and then followed it up by ranting about how I am one. That's not what caring looks like.
I don't know what he heard at the murder, but I don't think anyone can simply switch their feelings on and off like that. Not even Mark.
Then he does a really good job of acting like it. I slumped back on the sofa and pulled a pillow onto my lap. Whether I'm just a normal human who got stuck in some stupid paranormal situation or not, being human isn't a flaw.
I agree that it's not a flaw.
I never once considered being a vampire a flaw. William let out a long sigh and leaned back as well.
Being human in this world is very difficult.
The biggest irony is that if I believe what Kaya told me, when I get my body back, I won't be a human anymore, regardless of what Mark says. Probably... Well, I was gonna say probably Adrian, but could be Spencer.
What do you mean by that?
Ah, it was both of you. I tensed at the sound of my idiot brother's voice behind me, closing my eyes in frustration. Damn it, that wasn't something he was supposed to overhear. I still wasn't used to the fact that he could just easily walk into the club room now. Looking over my shoulder, I saw him standing in the door with his new best buddy. They were both staring questioningly. Ugh. Even if I hadn't planned on telling him yet, there was no way he'd let something like that go.
When you get your body back, what does that mean?
I crossed my arms over my chest and turned around, glaring at the fireplace. There were developments yesterday. Major ones. Spencer came and stood next to the sofa, looking down at me. I avoided meeting his eyes.
You didn't say anything about that last night.
I was trying to get my own head around it last night. I didn't want to talk to you about it. He sat directly across from me in one of the wing-back chairs. I reluctantly met his gaze. His eyes were narrowed as he studied my face, a frown I'd become distressingly acquainted with the last few years.
What exactly were these developments?
Awkwardness descended as I tried to figure out how to answer that. I was mentally kicking myself for not being more careful with talking about that. Beside me, William shifted uncomfortably, then stood. He gave me a hesitant smile.
I need to go to the library to meet Shelley. I'll let the two of you talk.
I wanted to beg him to take me with him so I could avoid this conversation. Please! But I just returned the smile and waved slightly. You're a sweet bean, William. Keep being awesome. No problem. I'll see you later. He quickly stepped out, leaving me to Spencer's demanding frown and Adrian. I like that he said, you two should talk, and just ignored Adrian was there. I'm like, or maybe that was a hint, like, Adrian, get the heck out of here. Who didn't seem interested in leaving at all. He deliberately ignored the pointed look I gave him as he took the other wing back. Jerk. It was a pity he couldn't read my mind. I guess he felt one day of studying with us entitled him to know about this too. I debated telling him to leave, but I just didn't want to deal with an argument. What reason did I even have to hide it anymore? Look, Allie and I were trying out some of the Changeling tests. Just to be sure. To try to rule it out so you'd feel better about it. And Kaya, that waitress from the murder, saw us.
The murder? That cafe in town? It's not just a cafe. That's their cover, yeah. But actually, they're a well-known information source in the paranormal community. Information brokers, a think tank. A lot of people go to them for advice, for answers, for information on any number of topics. I can't believe you really went to them for help.
Well, it wasn't intentional. Like I said, she saw what we were doing, and because she has some experience with changelings, she kind of picked up on what was going on. So she chatted with me for a while. So you are a changeling. I hated the accusatory way he said that. It's not what you think at all. The books don't even have half the information on what a changeling really is, or how it all works. They stole my body and soul-swapped me into a changeling's body to act as camouflage so she wouldn't be discovered. This whole time, I've been sharing this body with one of the fairies responsible for kidnapping me. I stood abruptly, pacing around the sofa to release some of the pent-up frustration. They did what? Well, this is the story I got from someone who's been in the exact same position as me before. And so I spent the next 10 minutes recapping everything Kaya had said to me the day before. Everything about why changelings existed, how it worked, and that we didn't know how to fix it just yet. It sounded just as strange the third time around as it had yesterday, but somehow, even if I would have preferred not to tell him yet, it felt like a little more of that burden was lifted. The act of explaining it all helped the reality sink in, and that helped me focus in on the solution we needed to find. Spencer listened calmly. He didn't ask a single question until I was finished. I don't understand why you didn't tell me this yesterday when I drove you home. Maybe because you've been an ass for 5 years and I don't know how to talk to you anymore. I already said I was still trying to grasp it all myself. I didn't even know if you'd believe me. Why wouldn't I believe you? At this point, I don't have a reason to not believe any of the stupid things that happened lately. Well, yeah. Since you've always been such a paragon of reason and rational thought, I have no idea why I thought you might not believe me. Not to mention that you also didn't mention being chased by some weird thing in town. Don't you start in on that too. I didn't ask her to follow me. The drifters are always bad this time of year. They're always a nuisance to anyone who can see them. Assuming she is one, of course. Yeah. Well, I hope I don't see that one again. Ever. What are you going to do now? About the changeling thing, I mean. I don't know. Kaya implied if we could remember how the contract was initiated, there might be some specific action we could take to undo it. But I don't remember anything. Not when, not where, not how. So we'll have to use a more general method to dissolve it. Like the test we tried yesterday, but something that actually works. The problem is, we don't know how to do that either. Maybe you should try asking Brenna. She might know something. I gave him a scathing look. Why was he even part of this conversation? Thanks, Sherlock. We totally didn't think of that on our own. Hey, I'm just trying to help. I was planning to ask her later today, but I don't know if she'll help. Fae don't relinquish their secrets easily, and Kaya said this was a pretty closely guarded one. Even so, Brenna helped me once already. Maybe she has some reason for that. Maybe she'll do it again. When we got here earlier, you said that you might not be... Apparently, if a human stays in fairy too long, it'll start affecting their body, their life force, and all that. Even if we fix this, I won't go back to how I used to be. I'll be somewhere between human and fae, but not fully either one. It's better than being held hostage in a body that isn't even mine. The warning bell rang, interrupting our conversation. Spencer and Adrian stood, but I stayed where I was. You're not going to class? I have to get this issue solved. Kaya indicated that I may be working on a time limit here. I'm going to talk to Velos. He may have some suggestions. If not, I'm going to spend the day hunting down Brenna, most likely.
Good luck. Try not to get your eyes clawed out.
Thanks. They left me in the club room, but Spencer shot me one more worried look as he vanished into the hall. Feeling as uncertain as he looked, I grabbed my things and headed to the library to find Velos. I assumed Velos had probably seen and heard weirder than my situation. He took the news with surprising calm, barely even batted an eye.
For the time being, I agree that your best option is to ask Brenna for help. Unfortunately, the agency has little experience with changeling contracts. But in case she's unwilling to help, I'll endeavor to come up with a contingency plan. And you should try to remember what you can about initiating the contract.
I've been doing that. He scrutinized my face carefully.
This sleepwalking issue. You haven't had any of these blackouts while awake?
No. It seems like she can only come out while I'm sleeping. There are moments when...
When what?
I don't know. When suddenly everything seems foreign, ugly, strange. Like I'm looking through someone else's eyes instead of my own. Or when it feels like I'm being watched. Maybe I'm just being paranoid.
I think we should be cautious about assumptions. We should get you something to wear during the day. Something that can potentially keep the changeling at bay. I'll look into it.
Okay, thanks.
In the meantime, I'll write an excuse to get you out of class. Show it if anyone questions you while you're searching for Brenna.
Thanks.
It's no trouble, of course.
I don't suppose you know where I can find her.
It's unlikely she's in class. I recommend you check the courtyard, and perhaps the cafeteria. There is also a particular classroom on the 4th floor she seems to like. 437.
Got it. He handed over the note, a veritable get-out-of-jail-free card for the rest of the day, and I slipped it in my pocket. Velos, you can be pretty awesome sometimes. He paused. And he's considerate. Unfortunately, timing's bad.
Will Mr. Lowe be needing a note as well?
I started at the mention of Mark. No.
I see. I had noticed the two of you spending a lot of time together.
Ah. Well, he won't be needing a note, no.
I see. Keep me apprised.
I will. I stepped back through the door to the club room and dropped my things on the sofa. Since I wasn't going to class, I could come back for them later. Now, to find Brenna. Courtyard, empty class, cafeteria. I've never seen Brenna in the cafeteria. I've never seen her in an empty class. I've definitely seen her in the courtyard a lot of times. Am I looking for Brenna, though? Mark has the highest chance of being in the courtyard. Decisions. I think cafeteria is out. I think it's either the class or the courtyard. Let's go to the courtyard if for no other reason than nostalgia purposes. The most logical place to look first was the courtyard. At any rate, I was already right next to the door, so I might as well look there. I could come back during lunch, too, since I knew other students ate there. Mark's face flashed through my mind, and I grimaced, almost changing my mind. I did not want to be thinking of him right now, but... There was no way to avoid him, and I couldn't keep moping about it. I knocked very carefully, making sure I got the right one as I glared at the sign on the door. Ah, you are here. As I stepped through it, Brenna was the first thing I saw, exiting through a door directly across from me. Wait! She looked directly over her shoulder at me, but didn't pause as she vanished behind the other door. I rushed across the courtyard, dodging the tables like a madwoman to follow her, but when I tried to yank open the other door, it wouldn't budge.
I see you haven't fixed your habit of running through doors with no thought of what may happen if you do.
I froze at the sound of that voice. What's he doing here? And how had I not noticed him sitting right by the library door? He had a cup from the murder and a book open on the table in front of him. He wasn't even looking at me. Shouldn't you be in class right now?
Shouldn't you?
I have something more important to do. What's your excuse? He said nothing, just turned another page in his book. If he was going to give me the cold shoulder, I had no idea why he'd spoken to me at all. I tried the locked door again, but I couldn't help but wonder what Mark was doing here at all. Unless he was trying to avoid me. Mark. The guy who cared so much about his grades, he'd asked me to tutor him back when he still thought I was a lowly human with skipping class to avoid me? I guess I wasn't the only one still moping about our fight. I released the door handle with a frustrated groan. Ugh. Do you know where this door leads?
No.
Whether that was true or not, I had no idea. I didn't know why I'd bothered to ask.
I have no reason to lie to you.
I told you to stay out of my head.
I've told you to stop shouting your thoughts.
I let out a short, dry laugh. The same argument. Over and over again, like we're a couple of Cinderies or something. Someone was supposed to show me how, but I guess he didn't have time.
Perhaps he was simply tired of holding your hand all the time.
That stung, but I wasn't going to let him know that. If he didn't want to hold my hand, he should never have done it in the first place. And I wasn't talking metaphors, because Mark was the one who reached out to me. Whether it was because I was prey or because he liked me. He reached out first. I clenched my jaw as he slowly looked up at me. For a silent moment, we faced off. This time he averted his eyes first. Whatever. I have other things to do. I left him there, slamming the door behind me. I stood there for a moment, both palms pressed to the warm wood, trying to steady my nerves. That had not been an encounter I was prepared for. I stared at the ceiling as if it would have some kind of answers for me. It was stupid, but even as I left the courtyard, I'd been hoping he'd call out to me or stop me from leaving. Stupid. I released a long, slow breath. Okay. Focus. Brenna had been there, but she left through that door. Where did it go? Somewhere in the school? Should I even bother looking anywhere else or just wait for her here? Then again, Mark would probably be heading to class after literature, and he'd have to come through here to get there. I didn't want to see him again. We couldn't avoid each other forever, but I didn't want to see him again today. I guess I'll at least check out the classroom, just in case, then the cafeteria. For all I knew, the door she'd gone in also led to somewhere here at school. If it did, she could be anywhere. I might as well stick to my plan. At worst, I'd waste a little time. I left the club and headed down to the darker end of the main hallway. Most of the classes used for other clubs were nearer to the stairwell. This part was unused except for storage. And, well, as a hangout for whatever lurked up here. I shivered. Though it was the top floor, it was always the coldest. Even the room where Mark and I had been trapped hadn't even been this far back. Ugh. I pushed all thoughts of him firmly out of my head. Or tried to. It was difficult when there was nothing but the sound of my boot heels clicking against the tile. The moment his face flashed into my mind, every memory of every moment vied for attention. I paused, pressing the back of my hand to my mouth as I tried to rid myself of all of those thoughts. You have terrible taste in guys. Not a fan of that sound. Ugh. As I stood there, a whisper slid past me and rustled down into the darkness. A chill ran through my body. I glanced back, but nothing was there. Oh man, I hate this place. I picked up the pace, hurrying down to the third corridor. Velos had said she liked room 437, for whatever reason. I stopped at the opening to the hall and looked down. It was so dark. Anxiety settled in the pit of my stomach as I stared down to the open door at the end. It felt off. It wasn't just normal shadow lurking down there. Staring into it was like being pulled into darkness. Prickles stood up on the back of my neck. It was stupid, or given where I was, maybe not, but I felt like if I walked down there, I wouldn't walk back out. How does Brenna deal with this? I took a step back, and a door down the hall slammed. Hi! Long time no see! Was that whisper an Nora, by any chance? I jumped half out of my skin and whirled around in time to see Corvin barreling toward me. His face registered a flash of surprise, but neither of us could move before we collided. Yes, glad some things never change. And down we went in a tangle of limbs. I landed heavily on my back, wind completely knocked out of me, and that was before Corvin face planted into my solar plexus. Oof! I lay on the floor, dazed, as Corvin frantically picked himself up and flailed.
Sorry! I'm sorry! Oh my god, are you okay?
He helped me sit up, still flapping anxiously, as I let out a slow, wheezing breath. Ow. What were you doing?
I'm so sorry. I was sort of chasing something.
Something? I didn't see anything chaseable.
Which doesn't mean it wasn't there.
Fair enough.
Yeah, what are you doing here instead of class?
He stood and helped me up as well. I was still clutching my abdomen gingerly as I pulled myself back to a standing position. It was amazing how the entire hall was 100% less creepy with Corvin's doofy smile in front of me. Doofy. It's a good word. Looking for Brenna.
Oh, I haven't seen her up here this morning.
Have you looked in room 437? Apparently it's her favorite.
I've been all around the place.
He leaned down, looking at me seriously, both hands still on my shoulders.
You sure you're okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just had the wind knocked out of me is all. Anyone ever told you that you have a really hard head? Consistency.
Once or twice. I'm really sorry I ran into you. I wasn't expecting anyone else to be here today. Come on, I'll help you get to the club.
He put his hand on the small of my back and turned me back to the club. I don't really need help, though. I stopped short. A familiar figure was standing down the hall, just outside the club, staring at us both. Hi, Mark. Mark again. He must be leaving to go to second period. It was undoubtedly time for the bell to ring soon. I thought he was going to say something as Corvin and I approached, but he just scowled and stalked away because he's jealous.
He looked kind of mad.
Well, he usually does.
Really? I felt like he was kind of being nicer lately.
Yeah, right.
Are you heading down for second period?
No, I have permission to miss class. I really need to find Brenna. It's important. I thought he'd question me further, given how irrepressible he usually was, but he just nodded.
If I see her, I'll tell her you're looking for her.
I appreciate it. He waved and left me by the club just as the bell rang. Well, that didn't exactly go as planned. Still, Corbin had said that he didn't see her up here, so maybe I checked the cafeteria next. I headed for the stairs, trying to decide what I would tell Brenna when I found her. I couldn't just bank on her wanting to help me. Fairies never did anything for free. That I knew. But what can I offer her if she does want something? I didn't know. I didn't have much of value, and I wasn't up for entering into some other weird arrangement. Not when I was doing all this to dissolve the first one I'd entered into. Then again, Kaya had just wanted a painting. Who even knew what these people considered a fair payment for help?